Welcome back, degenerates. This is Locked In. I'm your host, Mason Cameron, at PFF_Mace on Twitter. And with me, as always, my partner in crime, Vishaal Gupta, at Vishaal_Gupta95 on Twitter. V, it's week 11. We're through the halfway point and we're heading down the stretch of this NFL season. How are you doing, my friend? How are you living? You ready to make some money this week?
Doing great. This has been another phenomenal season so far, halfway through. Again, I think as the week goes on, we're just learning more and more, and I think it's going to be a great final stretch of the regular season and then a great playoffs as usual. So, yeah, looking forward to another fun weekend of making money and watching some good football.
We've got some good games this week. And you know
This is a
what?
great weekend.
You know what? I shouldn't say always, but a lot of the times we don't really target many of these really big matchups just because when you have two good teams, sometimes it can go either way and tends to lean towards some more money-making opportunities in some other games. But we have on our slate this week two of the biggest games out there. So this is going to be a good show. And unfortunately, for starters, we do have to start by talking about the Thursday night football game. And for anybody that doesn't know, we start with breaking down the TNF game, and then we move into our game picks of the week. We don't hit on every single game. So if you do want to check us out, make sure you head over to importantnonsense.com, become a member, and then head over to our Discord. That's where you can ask us all of your questions, and that's where you can get any of our other picks for the week as well. So for starters, V, we have to talk about the Patriots and Jets. And again, Betting Pro is a little goofy with the layout. That's not this game. It was this game right here with the Pats hosting the Jets. Spread on this one was about 13 points. It was a push there. And game total on this one, about 42.5, 43 points. And it went under that mark as well. And honestly, you know, V, I had a read on the Jets at under 14.5 points. When they haven't had a lot of success running the football, they have really struggled to put up offensive production. I was a little bit worried at first. That first drive, they were cooking, and then it was just all downhill from there. They ended up with just the 14, so we did hit the under on that regard. And of course, you know, Travion Henderson, explosive game. If only they had been able to give him the football as many times as they did last night throughout the season in every game, then we'd all, you know, the Travion Henderson truthers wouldn't have had to go into hiding for the first half of the season, and now they're eating good. So, V, what did you see in this matchup? What are you taking from both of these teams?
Yeah, we have to start with Henderson. I'm one of those guys. I came out of hiding last night, and it was glorious as one of the thousands or millions of dynasty managers all over the country who took Henderson with their first pick this year. It has been a tough start to the season. He broke out last week and then broke out again last night, and it just feels so good. My team, it feels like I have a future now. I was super worried because there's not a lot going on with my dynasty squad. It's looking a little bleak, but I got Henderson now, and I got him going forward for a few years, and it just feels very, very good. So it was awesome to see. He looks great. I'm not sure what took so long. That's going to be a head scratcher for a while. I'm interested to see what comes out over the offseason. These reporters will go in and find some dirt and let us know what happened, because I'm curious, because there's no reason he shouldn't have been the guy from the start. It seems like he was awesome.
He was great.
He was
in the preseason. He was great. He was their best player in the preseason. I thought he was going to be the focal point of this offense for the first half of the season, and it didn't work out. I mean, I guess it comes down to you got to earn Vrabel's respect for the young guys, and I guess now he's got it. So, what else did you see from this one, V?
You know, Drake May continues to look great. I mean, the numbers aren't gaudy or anything like that, but he did what he was supposed to do. He completed a ton of passes. He was pushing the ball down the field, doing stuff in rhythm. He scrambled when he needed to. Like he's playing electric football right now, and he's exactly what they need to kind of continue doing things. So I really like what I saw from them. From the Jets, it's the same old. I mean, they don't have a functioning offense right now. Fields can only do so much. I mean, for this to be his fourth or fifth year in the league and for him to still be missing some of the throws that he's missing is tough. I know Edie Mitchell didn't help him out a whole lot with some of those drops, but a couple of those throws that he was wide open, he just whiffed completely in terms of putting it anywhere close to him in terms of accuracy or anything like that. So, yeah, you got to figure something out. You can't be wasting Brees Hall like they're doing right now. Garrett Wilson being out obviously doesn't help, but even if he was in there, I don't see any difference there. So, yeah, I think lost season, and yeah, they have to get this quarterback thing right next year. Whether they're taking Mendoza, whether they're taking Ty Sims, whatever it is, they have to hit this one. So that's where all eyes are going to be on for them for next summer.
Yeah, and and to be frank, like this is the team. If you're going to show your ability to throw the ball, like Justin Fields, this is one of those teams you have to be able to throw against because the Patriots have not been as good in coverage as they've been up front stopping the run. We saw that, and that's a big issue when it comes down to this Jets offense. They obviously want to run the football, but if they can't get a lead and they can't sustain a lead, it's just downhill from there. And we saw
Yeah.
it with Justin Fields last night. He had 116 passing, one touchdown, 4.5 yards per average. And I mean, we did talk about the AD Mitchell situation there. He had 6 targets, 1 reception for 10 yards. He had a couple of brutal drops there. Just sometimes just forgets that he has hands, but he separates at a really strong level. And if we get, him, John Mechie, add another receiver to this unit, figure out something in the quarterback, that's going to
You
be
still
a
have Garrett Wilson. You still have Brees Hall. Like
still
you
have.
can you can do this. You spend a couple top 10 picks on offensive linemen the last couple of years. Like there is a backbone that you can build off of. But obviously you need the quarterback. You need the play callers. I mean, a couple of things that you still need to figure out there.
Yeah. No, like they have pieces. They have
Yeah.
pieces. And unfortunately now they're back to rebuilding a defense. And I almost anticipate that probably being a big focus for them in the draft this year and in free agency. But it's going to take those picks that they took, that they got from those trades, and they really, really need to make, good use of them. And I've questioned a little bit some of the drawback that we got or that, the public sort of made after they made those picks. Some people were saying, "Oh, well, it would matter if they were good at picking." Well, it's like they have a new GM now, so like there is some question of yeah, like he's going to have to make good picks, but it's not like this team was very bad at making picks. Now they missed a bunch, but we're also not that far removed from when this team. I mean, granted, different regime, but we're not that far removed from when this team took Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, and they were both Rookie of the Year in the same.
I was just gonna say
th-
that was like 2 years ago. It
That's
wasn't that long ago. We can't have that short-term memory, guys. Come
right.
on now. That was
So so
2
let's
years ago.
give some of these pieces time.
Yeah.
Let them sort of maneuver their way out of this because they do have some solid young pieces. Garrett Wilson is still there. Brees Hall is still there.
Yeah. The
So
fact that you were able to get multiple first rounders for Sauce, you could probably get a first rounder for Garrett Wilson. You could get a relatively good pick for Brees Hall. Tells you that they have drafted well at those positions. They've just missed at quarterback,
they've just
obviously.
missed at quarterback exactly, and they just need to get on that front, and they'll be good to go. Well, I
For
mean,
sure.
yeah, good to go
Easier said than done.
on the right track. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
Um, so we head into our first game of the slate here, V. We're gonna be waking up with some money as Spain gets their first NFL international game. And it could have been a better matchup for Spain, frankly. But
It could have
hopefully,
been worse too, though. Let's be fair. I
eh,
mean, these teams can score a little bit.
yes, exactly. So that's probably going to be the way that I would head in this one. I wrote about this game early on when we were talking about early in the week, and this point line, this game total was 46 and a half. And I liked it a lot. I liked the over in that. We've had two defenses that have struggled, but as it's sort of moved forward, and I think it's going to continue to climb a little bit, one of the angles that I'm taking in this game is actually going to be Miami over 24 and a half points. So in this one, in Spain, Miami the favorite, -2.5 game total. Like I said, moving up to 47.5, possibly a little bit higher by game time. I'm really loving what we can get as a value from Miami's offense specifically. Now, I don't really have too much of a problem with what Washington's offense has looked like with Marcus Mariota. They've actually looked a little bit better at times than they did with Jaden Daniels for one reason or another. I don't necessarily think that that's Jaden Daniels' fault, but just sort of situation and matchups and things like that. But what we have seen is that this Miami offense, when they're cooking, they can still cook. And unfortunately, when we talk about this Commanders defense, it's as bad as it's ever been. It went from
Yeah.
bad in the early part of the season to even worse down the stretch. They've allowed more than 24 and a half points to each of their last 5 opponents. And this season, they rank bottom 4 in EPA per play allowed, success rate allowed, yards per play allowed, and scoring drive percentage. All of those are abysmal, abysmal numbers. And we have just seen offenses take full advantage of this team left and right. And now, while Miami's offense has been a bit up and down, they're not going to have any answer. Excuse me. Washington's not going to have any answer for Miami's explosion with Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. Both of those guys are 2 of the best players in the NFL at their position. There is no surprise why when this Dolphins team was shopping players, they had high prices for pieces like Achan, like Waddle, and reasons why they weren't willing to let them go for nothing was because of what they can do together. When we talk about Waddle specifically against this Commanders defense, Waddle is 6th in explosive receptions, so receptions of 15 or more yards. He has 19 this season, and those numbers have gone up since Tyreek Hill has gone down and since the last few weeks. When we talk about Washington specifically, they allow the highest percentage of explosive pass plays in the NFL this season, and it's by a wide margin. And they continue to get worse. No Marshawn Lattimore anymore. He's out for the season. And they're playing Jonathan Jones on the outside. Like, this is going to look a whole lot worse before it looks any better. And I have a feeling that we're going to see a big day from Jalen Waddle as he rips off a couple of big ones. And then when we talk about Devon Achane, he is absolutely fantastic and he is incredible. Everybody already knows he's incredible with the
Yep.
ball in his hand, but what he does spectacularly better than 99.9% of running backs in the NFL is his ability after contact. He is the only player that's ahead of him in yards after contact per attempt this season is Jonathan Taylor, and we already know how electric he is. Washington, 27th in yards after contact per attempt allowed. They've really struggled tackling. And now this week, they're going to have no Daron Payne, who was kicked out of their last game for punching Amon-Ra St. Brown in the face. Got to be better than that. Got to be smarter than that. So he is going to miss this one. And when we talk about what this means for Tua, is Tua himself is a little bit of an up and down quarterback. And that's why this offense fluctuates like they have. But these are the matchups he really feasts on, particularly matchups where the defense cannot pressure him like other defenses can. He is very sensitive to pressure. And this Dolphins offensive line hasn't really helped him a whole lot. But given that we haven't really seen a whole lot from the Commanders as a pass rush, we talked about this a few weeks ago when they played the Chargers, and we said, I'm not quite so sure. And then the Chargers came out and they had a really good game against a the Commanders had a great game against a patchwork Chargers offensive line. But that's really been about it from them. They haven't been able to take advantage of pretty much any other offensive line, and that's going to be the situation that I see them in this one. I'm liking them at -2.5, and I'm also liking them to go over 24.5 team points. V, are you seeing anything in this one?
Nope, I'm pretty much there with you. I'm probably going to be taking the overall in this game for both teams. I think it's 47.5. Neither defense really does it for you, right? I mean, you mentioned it with the Commanders. It's just been a train wreck for the entirety of the season. Plus, now you're dealing with a ton of injuries to a bunch of guys everywhere and a suspension. So it's not working well. Dan Quinn taking over play calling duties. We'll see if maybe that can help. But as you know, how much can you really do? And the talent isn't there on that side of the ball. I think Mariota should be fine as a backup role. I think outside of that Kansas City start, he's been perfectly fine when he's had to come in, given the pieces around him, because obviously they're banged up offensively too. Terry McLaurin still out, Luke McCaffrey goes down, so you're really just kind of dealing with Zach Ertz and a bunch of other guys. So he'll do what he can. This offense defense isn't anything to write home about either. That they have plenty of holes that have been taken advantage of this year. So yeah, I expect just plenty of points and very, very poor defense. And yeah, Miami is going to have like as many explosive plays as they used to have back in 23 when they were dropping
When
70
they
points,
yeah.
points. Yeah. So
Why did we
yeah,
have to say 70 points, V? Come on.
sorry, it's too funny to not bring up. You guys allowed 70 points in an NFL game.
I mean,
It's unbelievable.
they legitimately might put up 60 themselves this week. So,
Yeah. Well,
it's
take all
definitely
the
safe to
overs in this
say
game.
I like your angle on the over as well. I mean, if it, I think adamantly that if this game had been played in the States, this is a 50-point game total.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
fair.
the travel is really what knocked it, and I'm not really that afraid of it, even with the travel, frankly. I mean, and we
Yeah,
talk
more
about
defense.
Miami. Miami's going to be in Spain. That's nearly Florida.
That's nearly Florida. It's just right there. You can
It's
see it.
nearly Florida. All right. The next game on our list here, V, is one that you're targeting. We have the Chargers heading into Jacksonville to take on the Jags. They are 3-point favorites here on the road. Game total about 43.5 to 44.5 points. Tell me which side you're betting and why.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking the Chargers -3 in this game. The Jaguars are just like a joke right now. What happened last week is just unconscionable. This is a team that I think we were both on Houston +1.5 last week, and that looked dead in the water almost right from the start because you have Davis Mills down multiple touchdowns early on against what should have been a competent Jacksonville team. And what happens? You blow a 19-point fourth quarter lead to Davis Mills. Like you just can't do that and be taken seriously as an NFL team right now, and I'm going to keep betting against them at this point. Their defense has been just terrible lately in Jacksonville. They gave up 35 to the Rams a few weeks ago in London. They gave up 29 to the Raiders a couple of weeks ago. And then again, they gave up 36 to Houston last week. You just can't do that. I understand that there was a defensive touchdown on the last play, but even before that, you were giving up 29, 30 points to Davis Mills in the fourth quarter when he was just taking it up and down the field on you. You only have 4 takeaways in the last 5 games after such a hot start, and they're tied for the fewest sacks in the league at 12. How do you have Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker, and you are tied for last in the league in sacks? You just can't do that, and especially now when you're going up against a Chargers team when their biggest weakness is their offensive line, given all the injuries. And if you can't take advantage of that, and you're going to let Herbert have time to do what he needs to do, he is going to tear you apart. And that's what I'm anticipating this game. I think this is going to be another big Herbert game. I think he's going to be able to feed all of his receivers. Vidal will do what he needs to do on the ground. I just don't see this Jaguars defense being able to stop the Chargers offense, given how poorly they've been playing. And then on their offense, who knows what you're going to get, but they're dealing with some injuries at the receiver position. We learned Travis Hunter is going to be out for the season at this point with a knee injury, and then Brian Thomas Jr. is still questionable after he missed last week. So you're down your top 2 receivers. You have a bad defense. You have a quarterback you can't trust on a weekly basis. I mean, yeah, just give me the Chargers all day, every day in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it said that last play says everything that you really needed. That just encapsulated what that game, frankly, Was you see some good from the Jags, and they quickly. It's a bit of a cliche, but people say it's hard to win in the NFL. Now, I get that to the average person, they think, well, a team wins and a team loses pretty much every game, right? Like somebody
Right.
has to win and somebody has to lose. But no, in that game specifically, and in a lot of these games that we've seen these Jags play, is that they lose games themselves as opposed to
Yep.
letting other teams beat them. And I think that that is exactly what we saw this past week. And, we're talking about it. They just traded for Jacoby Myers, but this receiving core is very, very strapped to the point where, Tim Patrick is going to be having to run a ton of routes for them. Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers combined for 74 yards last week. Like that's your 2 top targets. Trevor Lawrence had 158 passing yards, and granted, it's against a very strong Texans defense, but that's the thing that's just not going to work. They need to figure some things out offensively, defensively. this team has sort of come apart at the seams, where this isn't the same team that we saw beat the Chiefs a month ago.
Mhm.
And something else that we've seen is like the Chargers specifically. We talk about their offensive line, and they came up against the Steelers, and that game. The Steelers obviously a potent pass rush. They should be able to get after the quarterback, especially with a beat up offensive line. 25-10, not even a sweat. They did not even matter at all. They're running on a 3-game win streak, even with their banged up injuries on the offensive line, and Justin Herbert's playing about as well as you could really hope for a quarterback to play behind such a detrimental offensive line. So I'm with you there. I'm liking the Chargers at -3 on the road, even with the travel. I think they're going to be okay.
Yep.
The next game on the slate here, I'm utterly shocked that this game came out under 50 points. I thought that this game would push up right to the key number at 51. But we're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals heading into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Pittsburgh -5.5 points. This is the exact same spread, I think. Let me double check this. This should be the exact
Yep.
same spread they played at. Yep, the last time they played in Cincinnati. Again, I'm not quite sure what the books saw out of the Steelers over the last few weeks in order for them to be 5-point favorites again against this very same team that beat them 3-4 weeks ago. This team is 1-3 against the spread since that day, and they have only won a single game. We just talked about how they had 10 total points against the Chargers. Um, you know, that's one thing, the Chargers defense, but I'm taking the over here at 49.5. 49. I'll take it at 49.5 too. I'll take it anything under 51, and then I'll even think about it at that point.
Yeah,
But
if you want.
so something that we just have to talk about is that this Bengals defense, I just literally just talked about how poor this Washington defense was, right? This Washington defense is atrocious in a lot of different aspects. This Bengals defense is right there with them in pretty much all those key metrics of efficiency that we talk about for defenses: EPA per play, success rate, explosive play percentage. They're even worse against the run. Like, that's how bad this Bengals defense is right now. But when we talk about the key to this one, we know Pittsburgh can figure it out, can score against this Bengals defense. That's not really going to be the question. I'm not worried about if they're going to get 10 points, because I think you're going to see a very similar game where they had 64 points the last time they played. What is the key to this game is what we saw in that last game and what we have seen from this Bengals offense since Joe Flacco took over under center. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly. He doesn't mess around in the pocket. He throws to guys that are beating single coverage. And when you have two receivers that beat single coverage at a high rate, there's no point to wait. There's no point to wait. That was a big problem with Jake Browning. He was waiting to see his guys be open. Joe reads the field before, knows where he thinks he should go with the football, and then delivers it before they're getting out of breaks. That's why you had a guy like Jamar Chase, who absolutely erupted against this defense the last time they played. And you're still going to have that again, because this team still plays a ton of man coverage, and you have two receivers who absolutely dust man coverage. Both of these guys, they just played they just played the Bears last week. Let me double check this. I'm pretty sure both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins had over 100. Yep,
Yeah, that's probably right.
121 for T. Higgins, 111 for Jamar Chase. And granted, it's another bad defense with the Chicago Bears, but I think that the big thing is Pittsburgh's defense is not the defense that we saw them play with last season.
Yeah.
And a big reason why is that they can't get the pressure up front without blitzing. They've been blitzing a lot more this year, and they're not getting home on their blitzes. It leaves their coverage really detrimental on the back end, where they're playing a lot of man coverage. Granted, you're talking about, oh, well, we have Jalen Ramsey back there now. It should be better. We're playing him out of the slot. He's a really elite corner. Well, I mean, he's been getting beat in a lot of ways too. When he's on the ball, he's fine, but he's been leaving separation on the field as well. And this is going to be one of those matchups that I see the Bengals take a lot of advantage of that as well. V, are you seeing anything in this matchup?
Yeah, this one's fairly interesting just because you never know what you're getting out of this Pittsburgh team on a week basis. It just, a couple weeks ago, you feel like they were dead in the water against Indianapolis, and then they somehow show up and get 5 takeaways and they play some competent offensive football. And then immediately you follow that with just a complete dud on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers, where they only put up 10 points and essentially get blown out. So, like, I feel like I'm at a point right now where I just don't want to be touching Steelers games, at least in terms of the spread. So I think in that sense, taking something on the total is a lot more viable and it makes a lot more sense. And if you are going to take a total in a game involving the Bengals, how do you not take the over? I mean, it's ridiculous. People might have forgotten because they had a bye week last week, so they're forgetting what the deal is. But they gave up 39 points to the Jets 3 weeks ago.
To the Jets.
That's how bad you are. Like, it's unconscionable what they're doing. I believe they're going to be without Trey Hendrickson again this week, so their best player not there. And like, even if he was there, I don't know how much difference it would make just because they have so many other issues. But with him out, it's going to be just that much tougher. So yeah, if you're going to take anything, might as well just take the over in this game. I think trying to figure out the spread in a game involving 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers and 40-year-old Joe Flacco is just going to make your brain explode. So just take the over in this one.
The old man bowl. And just to put that into perspective, Justin Fields, the quarterback that has thrown for under 100 yards multiple times this season, to the point that his line last night, his passing line, was 129 yards. I have never in my entire life seen a passing yardage line as low as Justin Fields was last night. And against a defense that is not that good against the pass, that man put up 244 yards, 7.6 yards per attempt in the game against this Bengals team. And you literally just said it. The last time these two teams played, 64 points. Against the Jets, 39-38. Against the Bears, 47-42. We talked about it. That entire game total was pretty much surpassed all off of the scores in the final 4 minutes of the game. It's like 28 points changed hands in that span. And when you have that sort of volatility on defense, like, it's a really difficult ask. So I am with you there, and I think we're going to be taking the over at 49 points. The next game on this list that I am liking, we've got the Chicago Bears. They're heading into Minnesota to play the Vikings. 2.5-point favorites for Minnesota. Game total on this one about 48.5 points. I'm not going to lie, V, this is one of the more head-scratching spreads that I've seen all week. Yeah. I understand that this Vikings defense has been playing better, and I understand that the Bears are on the road. I don't know where we're calling this an even 3 points or even a -2.5. I think that this game should be far closer to a pick'em with the Bears on the road here, who have just been playing a lot better. And when we talk about this team, I actually have a nice little same game parlay that I'm taking on this game that involves the Bears winning on the money line. And I think there's a lot of, support to that in a number of different factors. But I think the biggest one for me is that they being the Bears, have all of their improvements owed to Ben Johnson getting this running game going. I was on Kyle Monangai last week, and granted, it didn't end up being Kyle Monangai that did all the damage. It was DeAndre Swift. If you're getting this type of play out of DeAndre Swift, I give this man Coach of the Year. 6-3. There's a lot of really, really good coaches out there that are definitely worthy of it. Ben Johnson in his first season for this Bears team should definitely be in the conversation. Like I said, it's all because of this running game. Since week 3, when they started really getting a hold of it, 2nd in EPA per rush, only behind the Colts. 6th in rushing success rate. 1st an explosive run percentage. That's rushes of 10 or more yards. They are running the highest percent. Minnesota, 25th in rushing success rate allowed. We've seen a lot of teams really gash them on the ground. Now, the Ravens didn't quite do so much against them this past week, but I think that that's also where this game comes into play. We saw JJ McCarthy really dirt a lot of the offensive production for Minnesota, which is there if they can get competent quarterback play. They just really haven't been able to get that. And the other place where I really think that this Bears running game is going to set them apart is how good they've been in outside zone. They run the third highest rate of outside zone in the NFL this season, and they're up there in yards before contact, total yards, explosive runs. They're all in the top three in all those metrics. And when we look at the opposite side of this, Minnesota against outside zone is in the bottom half of the league. They've allowed the the third most yardage to outside zone runs at over 406. They're below league average in yards before contact per attempt and explosive runs. I mean, I just don't see this being a situation where the Bears aren't going to be able to figure something out offensively. And now, granted, they're bad defensively, but I really have a hard time seeing JJ McCarthy really keeping up. Now, I think even from a standpoint of you could see him having a reasonably better game than he has had through his first 4 starts. Now, he sort of figured out some things last week, but it's still, they're not really that close to getting that figured out. I don't think that this is going to be another matchup where JJ McCarthy is suddenly going to take a ton of steps forward. Now, I think he can be reasonably improved, but I just don't see this being a spot where we're going to see a shootout of the Bears versus the Vikings. Now, who knows? It could be another situation where it's the fourth quarter of that week 1 game where he, put up massive numbers and won himself player of the week. That feels like a lifetime ago, but I just don't necessarily see that being the case. And it's not because of the Vikings. It's because of the Bears. The Bears are a better team than they were in week 1, and I'm riding with them on the money line. V, are you seeing anything in this one?
Yeah, interesting game here as well. Super important for the playoff race in the NFC for both of these teams. Vikings kind of you need to win this to stay in it. Bears, if you win this, then you're kind of in a driver's seat spot to get a wild card spot there. I think on paper you're probably right. Bears should be closer to pick up, and the Bears should even be a favorite just because not only are they clearly better offensively, your quarterback is playing better, your skill position group is a lot better, especially at the wide receiver spot. Your running game is a lot more efficient. Defensively, I mean, both defenses aren't great, but what the Bears do is they take the ball away at an incredible clip. They lead the league with 20 takeaways right now through just 9 games played, so more than 2 a game that they're averaging. So just on those factors, yeah, Bears should probably have a ton of value to win this game outright. I think maybe where this line is being set is more on the trend factor, in the sense that Caleb has not played well in division. He's 1-7, I believe, in division, including 0-2 this year with the loss of the Vikings in week 1. I think trends would show you that Kevin O'Connell has had a lot of success against this Bears defense, regardless of who the play caller is on that side of the ball or who the players are on the field. He kind of always finds a way to beat this defense. Whether it was with Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, or JJ McCarthy in week 1. So I think there's some trends in play there that could lead you to want to take the Vikings. So it's a little bit tough, but I think the key here is that JJ is still very unproven. You don't know what you're going to get from him on a week in, week out basis. Hasn't looked terrific. He had a solid game, I guess, a couple of weeks ago against the Lions where he had a couple touchdowns, but his final numbers in terms of yardage and efficiency weren't great. And then last week he threw a couple head-scratching picks where he just kind of launched it deep down, kind of arm punt type plays that weren't very necessary. And then on the flip side, what Caleb is doing to avoid sacks right now is kind of incredible. It's like elite tier stuff that you're seeing out of him. Giants have a phenomenal defensive line, and they were getting to him relatively quickly last week. And the way he was able to get out of some of those is just remarkable. You don't see that from too many guys outside of maybe like Mahomes. That's maybe about it in terms of getting away from pressure like he does. And that's what the Vikings do. They like to blitz. They like to bring pressure. And if they're not going to be able to turn those pressures into sacks, and if Caleb's going to continue being able to evade those and make plays down the field, either with his legs or with his arm, then it's going to be tough to stop him. And it sounds like Jonathan Grenard, who is their top pass rusher for Minnesota, is not going to play in this game. He has not practiced yet this week, so that's going to be a big loss for them. So Yeah, I think there's just quite a few factors pointing in the favor of the Bears in this one. So it makes sense. As a fan, I can't make that pick myself because it's too stressful over here. So I'm going to let you do it for me. But I think the logic is there on this one.
It's something when Nashawn Wright has multiple interceptions in the last few weeks. That's definitely one of those, right? So
We should have had another one last week. He
yeah,
had it, and then
yeah,
Giants receiver knocked it out
knocked it
right
out
at the
right
end.
at the
So
last
he could have
moment.
3 or 4 on the season. Yeah,
So, all right, on to the heavy part of the slate,
let's
V,
do
and
it.
I'm excited to talk about it. These are a couple of picks that you have in the chamber, and I love to hear it. So first and foremost, a big game in well, I guess not technically my neck of the woods anymore, but the home territory for myself here. We have the Kansas City Chiefs heading into Denver to take on the Broncos. They are favored, they being the Chiefs, by 3.5 points. Game total on this one about 45 points. V, tell me what your read is on this game. Tell me my Broncos have a chance.
They might have a chance, but man, these numbers in terms of the spread and the total are very interesting. I want to get to the spread with you in a little bit because I want to see what you think. It feels like it's a little disrespectful for the Broncos to be 3.5 games up on the Chiefs and at home, and they're still being almost 4-point dogs. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'm first taking the total in this game. I'm going to be taking the under at 45. This just feels way too high to me. I'm not sure why this number is quite as big as it is. Both of these defenses are elite right now. Denver is allowing the third fewest points per game. The Chiefs are allowing the fourth fewest points per game. Both teams are allowing less than 18 points per game on the season. Both of these defenses rank in the top 10 in terms of fewest passing yards allowed a game, and then the Broncos rank in the top 10 in fewest rushing yards allowed per game as well. The Broncos lead the league in sacks. They're averaging more than 4.5 sacks per game. That's beating the next closest team by almost a sack and a half per game, which is incredible. And then if you look at the offense specifically for the Broncos, they have struggled quite a bit this season. If we're going all the way back to the Philly game, let's kind of break it down game by game here. Against Philly, they had 3 points in the first 3 quarters. Then they had a nice fourth quarter explosion to score 18 points. Following week, they put up 13 points against the Jets in London. They come back and then they put up 0 points against the Giants through the first 3 quarters. And then they had that incredible comeback where they scored 33 points. They have a nice outing against the Cowboys where they score 44 points. But then it's 18 points against the Texans and just 10 points last Thursday against the Raiders. So this is a Broncos offense where essentially they are putting up duds for at least 3 quarters out of every game they played except for one over the last 6 or 7 weeks. Now you're going up against a really, really good Chiefs defense, and you could be without your top back in J.K. Dobbins, who hasn't practiced yet this week. You know, Harvey has been really good when he's been out there, but is he ready to handle a full workload? And it feels like you're going to want to rely on that running game to help you out in this game because you're going up against such a good defense. So if you can't rely on that and you have to rely on Bo Nix, who has been quite shaky at times this year, it just feels like it could be a struggle for them to score points on Denver side. And then we know how good Denver's defense is. So we think you can do a pretty good job keeping this Chiefs offense in check. So I'm just, given how good both defenses are, I'm a little surprised that this total is as high as it is. So I'm going to take the under at 45 here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you when I think that this game total was far too high, and I like your read on the under there. I think a big piece of why this line looks the way it has is just because of what we have seen out of both of these quarterbacks. Frankly, it hasn't looked that good for Bo, and now Pat Mahomes. I mean, the momentum has just shifted in their favor. Now, granted, they did just get washed by a Bills defense that frankly isn't that good, and this Broncos defense is significantly better. So I do think that this game can be closer, and I think you did hit the nail on the head. Actually, I was talking with Ben Lindsay today on the PFF betting show, and his angle for this week is actually a first half line for the Chiefs at -2.5, and I think that that's
Yeah.
actually a great read there because like you said, this team is very, very slow to start. They don't really put it up like they need to, and then they sort of get after it late in the game. Most of the time, that is the situation that you do see. And that's not really conducive to seeing a bunch of overs, especially when it's matched with the level of defense that they have. I'm very interested in what this also means in terms of the secondary. Obviously, not going to have any Pat Surtain. And then, you mentioned it too. No J.K. Dobbins. That could definitely hurt because you don't want to put too much on Bo Nix's plate. I'm very, very interested. I don't. It's tough because, yes, in a way, it is a disrespectful line of being like, oh, the Broncos who lead this division, they're 8-2, are, underdogs at home to this Chiefs
Mhm.
team. But I think it also just comes down to sort of the momentum and the way that they have both flowed. The Broncos are that team where, last year when we talked about the Chiefs, it was all of these one score games, winning on the last play, all that type of stuff. And it felt like their overall record was a little bit inflated versus how good the team was. Now it feels a bit like that for the Broncos, where the record is a little bit more inflated than what the games have looked like. But it's sort of the opposite swing for this Chiefs team. This Chiefs team started off really bad. They've played a lot better. I think they're second in EPA per play this season now, after being more or less under league average for the first half of the season. They've been that good over the second half, or down the stretch there. So this is going to be an interesting one. I'm obviously going to stick to my own rules and not bet anything but a game total in a Broncos game. And you know how we
Yep,
do it with Broncos game totals. We always take the under, baby. So I am
for
going
sure.
to be taking the under in this one with you. And I can't wait to watch it happen. And, hoping that the Broncos can
This is gonna be
pull.
a good game.
It's going to be a good game.
Good game, critical game. This is gonna be a good one for sure.
Going to be a good one. And this game is going to be even better. This is
Oh
going to
my
be
goodness.
the game of the week. We are lucky to be seeing this one, and we get it another time here in a few weeks down the road here. We get the Seattle Seahawks heading into LA to take on, the Rams. The Rams are -3 at home here. Game total on this one about 48.5, 49.5, depending on where you're shopping. V, you have a lean in this one. Tell me which way you're going.
Yeah, I am liking the Rams to cover the full 3 at home in this game. Obviously, both teams are on fire right now. Seahawks playing phenomenal, Rams playing phenomenal, just dominating every opponent that they're playing. For me, this is going to come down, though, to me trusting Matthew Stafford over Sam Darnold. As good as Darnold has been this season, and obviously he's been terrific. We saw that game a couple weeks ago on Sunday Night Football where he had essentially a perfect first half, 4 touchdown passes, etc. He has quietly been turning the ball over quite a bit, especially recently. And I say quietly because, like, you don't really see guys turn the ball over as much as he has recently, and almost nobody is talking about it. He's had 6 turnovers in his last 3 games. He had 2 a few weeks ago on Monday night against the Texans, which almost cost the Seahawks that game, but their defense was able to keep him in it. He had 1 against the Commanders the week after, and then he had 3 last week. He attempted 12 passes that entire game. Like, in an NFL game, the quarterback attempted 12 passes, and he turned the ball over 3 times, though. I mean, I don't think they were all on him. He had a couple fumbles. One was on a snap, so you don't
Mhm.
want to put all the blame on him. But, like, he is putting the ball in harm's way a little too much for my comfort as compared to Matthew Stafford, who has just been dynamite so far, especially in the last 3 or so weeks. In his last 3 games, he has at least 4 touchdowns in every game. He has 13 total passing touchdowns in his last 3 games. He is squarely in the running for MVP this year. He's probably right at the top there with Drake May and a couple other guys. Completely clicking on all cylinders for that offense. Puka and Adams are the best 1-2 punch in the league right now. You just got to hope that they can stay healthy for the entire season. Seattle's defense has been quite good. Obviously, they had 2 defensive touchdowns last week with DeMarcus Lawrence. That's pretty incredible. But if you look at the teams that they played to get to that point, you're not 100% sure how real it is, at least for myself. You beat Arizona and Jacoby Brissett last week. You beat a banged up Washington offense the week before with Daniels getting hurt late in that game. You beat a Houston offense that has been very much in the mud all season. You beat a Jacksonville offense that has been very much in the mud this season as well. The best offense the Seattle defense has played this season was Tampa Bay back, I think, in early October, and they got torched for 38 points. So I just do want to see it a little bit more with some tougher competition, and this is going to be a great test for the Seattle defense. If they can come out and they can kind of put the Rams in check as much as you possibly can, put this offense in check, that's really going to be telling that this is a team that is 100% for real. They are to be taken seriously heading into December and January. And I still think that they're going to make some noise, even if they were to lose this game and not be able to fully compete. But I think if they're able to come out and kind of show what they can do defensively, it's going to be super impressive. And I'm going to take this team a lot more seriously. But until I see that, I'm going to take the trusted factor in Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I'm going to take this team to cover the 3 points at home.
Yeah, and I like your angle on that too. I want to lean into what both of them can potentially do on the outside,
Mhm.
being Devonte Adams and Puka Nacua against, that's sort of been the weak spot for this Seattle secondary is outside coverage. Um, it is going to be a really interesting factor too on the defensive side of the ball, what the Rams can do to an interior blocking scheme for Seattle. That's, you know, Gray Zabel hasn't been great. He really started off pretty well. He hasn't been
Mhm.
so great over the last few weeks. I think he got banged up a little bit in their last game as well. So that is going to be sort of what tilts me closer to the Rams. But man, it has been an incredible season for both of these teams. And when we talk about some of the best weapons in the game are playing in this game right now, it's going to be incredible. JSN, Puka Nakua, Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold. Those are among the highest graded quarterbacks and wide receivers in the game. I think this one has some fireworks. I can't wait to watch it go down. And I agree with you. I think when we talk about this Rams team, also, the other thing being is two of the best offensive play callers in the game with Clint Kubiak and Sean McVay going at it head to head. This is going to be an interesting one. We have used two strong defenses, but offense is going to prevail in this one, I think, which is why we see such a big game total in this. And frankly, I I don't know what else to say about it because I'm just excited to watch it. I'm not even probably bet this game myself, but it is going to be on my TV as well as everybody's TV in America in this late window. Can't wait to watch it go down. So
Yeah,
that
for sure.
about
This is
does
nice.
it for us for week 11 V. It's been a doozy. It was a great slate of games. We've got a lot of things to go target. And of course, for anybody who wants to show us some support, make sure you guys hit us up, importantnonsense.com. That's how you can get into our Discord. We'll answer any questions for you in there about any picks to games, even ones that we didn't cover here today, as well as more of our own picks over there as well. And of course, we're getting down in the stretch to fantasy season. Get in there, ask some questions, get the input from the fantasy guys, and even support all of our other shows. Jason is live like 3 or 4 days a week, answering start and sits, giving you guys the waiver wire input. So make sure you guys go hit up all of the shows right here. Nonsense FF on Twitch and Important Nonsense on YouTube. And yeah, so we were back a little bit early this week. Obviously, I didn't really mention that earlier, but hi, of course, because it's 3:45 on the Eastern time and not 8 like we usually go live. Our schedule will go back to normal next week, so be on the lookout for us. 8 p.m. Eastern next Friday. And of course, V, I think I got about everything there. You have any parting words for the folks at home?
Yeah, just thanks again for tuning in. Going to be a great, great slate. We didn't even talk about the great Sunday night game, Eagles versus Lions. That's also going to be phenomenal. So yeah, top to bottom, it's going to be a great Sunday. So hopefully everybody enjoys. Let us know if you guys got any questions on the games this week in the Discord. Happy to answer. Just shoot the shit. So come in there and we'll have a good time.
Yep, it's going to be a good one. Until next time, everybody, good night, good luck.